Hi all, welcome again to another 10 Talk. I'm excited. Kristen Foley is a third grade teacher in Bloomington here in Central Illinois. And Kristen actually did a 10 Talk. If you didn't see it, go back and catch that one because it's great on all these great organizational tips. The top 10 list is incredible. So be sure you look at those. But she's specifically going to talk now about engagement. If you saw that first one, you can imagine how engaging she is with both her kids face-to-face and online. And she's going to bridge some of those for us today. So my name is Nancy Latham. I'm from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. And Kristen, I'm excited about this one because this is tough online.
Well, it is, but wait till I show you. You're going to be like, oh, wait. Oh, yeah. I can totally do that tomorrow. Like, this is not as challenging as we might think. It just takes a while for those ideas to cook. I mean, keeping kids engaged is definitely a challenge. We know that. But as teachers, we're creative creatures. And many of those strategies you use in person are going to work remotely. So I have 10 simple ones that I've been using for remote teaching this school year that I think will help with student engagement. The first is we probably do morning meeting, morning messages. So I have different thematic ones based on alliteration titles for my students. And I let them either use the chat or I set up a poll in Zoom to gather quick responses from them. And sometimes I choose topics that are related to our studies. You know, if we're talking about growth mindset, for example, or would you rather, if we've been studying the Magic Treehouse books, I can ask them questions about that, or if we've been writing about heroes, would you rather have the superpower of invisibility or flight, and just fun things for them to think about and connect to make it more personal. Maybe even like, for example, Thoughtful Thursday, if I've recently read a book, like this amazing book, Each Kindness, where we reflect like, what was the author's message and are we applying that to our own lives? So I might say, you know, how are you going to make a ripple and spread that kindness? And just have them think about their own actions. And then I love Funny Friday too, because all throughout Friday we do jokes and comic strips and funny things too. But as far as their morning messages, I use a different one every day. And it's just a great way to hear from the students in quick ways using polls and the chat. So I've already talked about the red and green yes, no paddle, but I just want to say how great this is. It doesn't even have to be as official as mine is. I've seen it where it's just a red square paper and a green square paper and you hold that up. I even had a student who misplaced her. She just made one of her own coloring with green crayon on paper because she didn't want to miss out on it. But I'll just say, you know, paddles up. Do you agree with Charlotte? And then I'll say yes or no. If I see a no, like, okay, so explain, why do you disagree? Or, well, I don't really disagree. Our answer's the same. I just got to it a different way. All right, explain your way. How did you solve the math problem? So it's a great way for communication because my students mostly keep their mics off unless they are prompted, you know, raising their hand to ask and answer questions. It makes our lessons flow much more smoothly. Now, Zoom has a ton of features, which I'm going to go into in my next 10 Talk, but I just want teachers to know that Zoom polls, reactions, nonverbal feedback, screen share, and annotations are very useful. And I just don't want them to forget about that. There are certainly lots of videos out there that are quick that can teach you how to do that. I'll try to go a little bit more in depth in my next 10 Talk. So chat challenges are sprinkled throughout my day. The students know that the chat area is only to be used for chat challenges, or if you're having a tech issue, you can communicate that way. You know, if you can't hear me or your microphone's not working, you have to communicate with me in that way. But we're not going to use it for more of the social media and chat with friends. It's going to be only when a chat challenge is given, such as, you know, write one addition equation with a sum of 10. You can use 2 or 3 add-ins. So everyone's sharing their thoughts, and then they're also getting to hear everyone else's, or see everyone else's, I should say, in the chat, and it just gives them different perspectives. I do this a lot with read alouds. If I'm using the doc cam for the book while I'm reading, I tell them up front what the objective is, and then they can share it in the chat. Or if we're studying something like synonyms, and we can play it as a game where everyone's going to be involved and they're going to learn from each other. If I say in the chat, type a word that is similar to warm. So somebody writes toasty, somebody writes hot, somebody writes scalding. Now we can talk about shades of meaning. Well, which word is a milder word? Which one's more extreme? And which one will we use in different situations? So that's great too, where they can learn from each other. And those shyer kids are going to participate because they're not as reluctant to unmute and share out loud. And then I've also used it for positive peer feedback. So if a student shares their screen and is reading aloud something they've written in the chat, as students hear great things going on, they can type out those positive feedbacks to their peers. Then I also use dry erase board, which you don't have to have a real dry erase board. You can laminate a sheet of white cardstock. And then I use it in 3 ways, and I give it 3 fancy names using alliteration, but that's just so students know the objective. Like, what are they allowed to do on their whiteboard during this time? So if I call it dry erase drawing, it means you can actually use shapes and symbols, and if you have different colored markers, because you are allowed to draw and doodle. If I call it a whiteboard writing, I want you to focus more on the words and the sentences, maybe making a list of words or writing a response. And then if I call it marker math, there's also mathematical notations like equations or drawings that go along with math. Now, in the real classroom, some teachers use lots of those call and response class chants. You can still do those, but we forget when we're managing everything else. So I will go ahead and make mine as part of my Google slide deck so I don't forget. I'll just pull out my little wand and I'll say hocus pocus, and then they all say everybody focus. But they don't unmute to say it because that would be crazy, right? I say it and then I can see them saying it even though I don't hear them saying it, just to pull them all back in. And then there's also fun class cheers we can do, which again, you might do these in class when kids give answers and they're brave and they put forth effort, but I forget about them. So if I have a visual and the kid's like, oh, it's a cowboy cheer, everybody get out your lasso, yeehaw, wrangle that steer, and just fun ways to toss it in and keep them energized. I also love to do them if they're based on student interest. So I didn't really have the baseball cheer this year until I had a couple of students into baseball and softball. So I'm like, I want to draw them in a little more and let them know that I care about what they care about. So sometimes I just, come up with fun ones on the fly. There's air high five. I love this one too. I didn't think it was gonna be that great. Okay, so you make a W, and then you go, wow, oh, wow. And you do like extreme close up, which the kids are all wanting to do anyway. They're always like playing with the webcam and getting really close to it. So more fun than I thought it was gonna be. Or this one, the firework cheer, where we all act like the fireworks going up. And then it pops and then we go, ooh. To me, super fun stuff. When I'm in front of students and I can ham it up,
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they love that though. It's just a release, for that.
Yeah. And even the kids who are like, I'm too cool for this, I still see them smiling, even if they don't do the action. I'm like, you like it. So I also think that creating norms with student buy-in is important. So yes, I'm going to set up a lot of the expectations, but sometimes I can ask them. They're going to say what I want probably anyway, but they're more willing to follow through with the expectations if they help come up with them. So for example, when I wanted them to read along with me, they had the novel themselves, but I was going to do some reading aloud. And I said, okay, so what should you all be doing while I'm reading aloud? What are some good things? And they came up with these 4 things they wanted to say when we're reading together. This is what everyone should be doing. And I was like, this is like magical. Like I could harp on everybody, but they set it up. And then as I'm reading, I'm kind of glancing at my grid. They're doing it. So I have this every time I read aloud as a quick reminder for them. Now I did the same thing. And when in the beginning, I had some students that weren't used to getting up, going to bed early and getting up, and then sitting in front of a computer. They hadn't really even walked around their house much probably. So they were feeling sleepy. And so I said, well, what can you do if you're feeling sleepy? You probably don't want to like lay back in your comfy chair and pull a blanket up and close your eyes because you're going to fall asleep, right? So we talked about, we have water with us every day. Take a drink of water, stand up while you're listening, do some stretches, make sure you use your break time wisely. And, they came up with this list with me. So it wasn't just me lecturing them. I see you're getting, your eyelids are getting heavy. You use your stress ball to wake yourself up. They know now, and it's tied into our social emotional learning lesson, happened to be on self-talk that week. And I'm like, ooh, I'm tying this in. What can you tell yourself when you're starting to feel drowsy? Ooh, I should go to bed earlier tonight. Oh, I can do some engagement activities when she's asking me to use the chat, and that'll help pep me up and so on. I also think some teachers, you do room transformations, which are a lot of work. They're actually easier online. So for example, I used to set my room up like a doctor's office, and I didn't go crazy, but I would rearrange the desks. They look like operating tables, and there'd be a sign on the door that says, welcome to operating room X. And we're working on the distributive property of multiplication, but the kids go in and they have, scalpels, which are just a popsicle stick, right? And we're going to take and do some operations on these patients. Well, I can still do it. I just put on my lab coat with my stethoscope and I use all this doctor lingo, and I have a tray under my document camera, and I say, you know, you guys are junior doctors today. You're in your residency and I'm going to teach you how to perform these operations, but I need to know you can do this. You got to help me out here.
Well, you can probably find a Zoom background for anything.
Yes, absolutely. And
Much
simple
easier.
props too. Simple props are costumes, because
Yeah.
your room is now, you know, not that big.
A lot easier than in reality, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Also super easy to do special events. Like, you probably have fun days the kids earn for good behavior, you know, like let's say a hat day or some kind of dress up, maybe a show and tell, because they're all wanting to show you things from their house. You know, bring a stuffy or bring something with you today, bring a special beverage instead of just water. And then also surprise visits from special guests, you know, their principal they haven't seen, or, you know, other teachers they don't see. They could just do a special pop in. So, you know, they're coming at 10:30 and you say, oh, I hear a knock at the door. Who's there? And then you admit from the waiting room that special guest.
I love
And then
that.
finally, games and socialization. We can't forget about that. Yes, we're teaching the academics, but they miss their friends and they want to do and tell and, you know, be a part of this community. So I do mental games that usually would be physical, like say Boggle or Pictionary, as well as discussion games where they're in breakout rooms, and I'll use the broadcast feature to ask a question, you know, would you rather this or that? And I broadcast it, and they talk in their teams of 3 or 4, and then I broadcast a new question. In their small groups, they could also make a list, find 10 things you all have in common. They have to write down those 10 things to talk about what they do or don't like or do or can or can't do. One super easy one is mystery picture. So if you use your snip tool of a picture that you find, and then they all have to guess it and type in the chat what they think it is. And then after 30 seconds, you reveal it. That's an easy one, but also fun for them. Or you can make a quick Boggle game just using a table, type in some letters, give them a few minutes. Here I've hyperlinked my SAN timer to that online timer at stopwatch-online.com. And then you're using literacy skills in this as well. It's not just fun, but it's also giving them a little bit of challenge with their academics. And then there's just times where they want to be in breakout rooms and talk. And yes, I might throw in questions, like icebreaker questions to get it going, but I like to give them time as well just to chat on their own. But one thing I just learned of, I haven't tried it yet, but I'm eager to, is setting up breakout rooms based on interests. So kids who really like sports or animals or art, and you get to pick your breakout room you go to for that day, and you just talk with your friends about those kinds of things, and you show your projects. And I think the more we go in through this experience, the more we're going to learn, the more great ideas. And so in like the last 7 or 8 weeks, I think this is a good amount of engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I just love these ideas, especially the ones that we just don't think about, that the engagement they're losing, like talking to their friends about the things they want to talk about. You know, now instruction's limited, but the breakout rooms for that purpose, and social emotional. I love the thing about having people come visit, the principal, the school nurse, the school secretary, the people they're used to seeing that now they're not seeing at all. I mean,
Exactly.
I think that's all part of their missing day right now. And so I think that's important. I love these ideas. They're so great. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it. Again, grab the top 10 list that Kristen will have for this one. It's great. And then also she did do the organizing 10 talk, and she's going to do one on all these technology tips. So that'll be a great one too. Thank you. Appreciate it.